I've been a PGA member since 1963, all of it here basically in Oregon, so I go back quite a long ways. If I had one piece of advice to a young professional today, I would encourage them to remember that no matter how much you know about teaching and selling shirts and managing cart fleets, that it's a personality business and it's people service and getting along with people and having them be glad they came to see it today. Too many of our young people get so wrapped up in how to do what they're supposed to do that they forget it's a personality business. And the successful professionals that go a long time in the business are very cognizant about it is a personality business, it's a people business. We're in the rec time. My mentors in the business, I've been fortunate to have several. When I first started as a young pro at Royal Oaks in Vancouver, I worked for Harry Clough. He had been the president of the chapter at the time, and he helped me see how an operation is run on a little bit smaller private club situation. Bobby Litton was a member there. He was also a PGA member that was the Spalding rep in the section for many, many years. And a nice player. He'd won the Oregon Open years before. Had the record for the Oregon Open when it was held at Gearhart. I can't tell you the year, probably 49 or 50. And he helped me a lot with my game, not with exactly with lessons, but as I was trying to learn to play as a young man, he would give me a tip now and then that ended up being heading me down the right trail to play better. I then went to work for Eddie Hogan at Riverside Golf and Country Club right next door here, and he was a big merchandiser and a very top golf professional, and I learned a ton from him about the people business and how to sell retail and how to make a good golf shop work. And my final main mentor later on was Bunny Mason, Gene Mason, who was a great friend of mine. I never actually worked for him, but we were together a lot, and he was a great public speaker and led me to be very involved in the PGA of America as an officer and onward. So those are my main mentors when I was growing up. I was very fortunate to have them.
Well, I got in the golf business membership in 1961. The expectations of a professional staff, appearance, they're supposed to always look good, dress neat with shoe shine, clean shaven, hair combed in concert with staff and PGA expectations. Attitude, be attentive, polite, address adults by Mr. or Mrs. or Doctor, and learn to anticipate customers' needs and desires. Good service is an asset and everybody appreciates it very much. The golf game, anybody that's getting into the golf business should maintain a 6 or 7 handicap or better. You're going to be playing with members and they appreciate that and are very proud of their staff. This is a great business, so enjoy it. Involve yourself as much as possible. The more you put in, the more you will benefit. Thank you very much.
I've been a golf professional since 1973. As far as advice, if I could offer to a professional, what would it be? 2 things. One, there's no substitute for hard work. You will work long hours, and there's no substitute for doing the right job when you work the long hours. The second thing is to treat people like you'd want to be treated. You know, people have asked me, how did you last 40 years at one club? It was pretty simple. I treated people the way I would want to be treated. So, secondly, professionals, who is your mentor? I had basically 2 mentors. My immediate boss at Rogue Valley Country Club was Ron Caperna. Ron had been transferred there from Astoria Country Club, and when I started working for him, he realized fairly quickly that I knew what I was doing, and he became the director of golf, and I became the golf professional that did all the stuff behind the scenes. And the second mentor was Jim Sheldon. Jim was the pro at Grants Pass Golf Club, and Jim and I had known each other for many years when I was growing up as a kid. And then as he became a golf professional and then I became one, we developed a very close personal and friendly relationship and used each other for advice all the time.
I'm the PGA golf professional at Crooked River Ranch, and I've been a PGA member since 1980. Got started in the business in 1976. The question is, what advice would I give young guys getting into the business? Number one would be visible at your job. Makes a big difference. Get to know your friends in your club, your board members, and very importantly, take care of your women and the juniors in your club. Lastly, learn to remember names. It's very important and it's a huge asset. My mentors professionally, number one, well, not professionally actually, my first mentor was my dad. He got me involved in the game to begin with. He made it possible for me to enjoy the game at a very, very young age, and he taught me a great work ethic. Secondly was my first head professional, Jim Shifty Sheldon from Grants Pass, and he really taught me, got me involved. He pushed me into the politics and into teaching right out of the gate when I first went to work for him, and I cherish those moments I worked for him along the way. My third mentor was, mentors I should say, were Vern Perry and Jim Skogstad. They got me involved with the employment committee, actually at the time was club relations, and that's where I focused my attention and energy in the game of golf on the political scene in the Oregon chapter.
I've been a PGA member since 1966, and I'm at Beaupre in McKinleyville, California. And as far as the advice for someone coming into the business, they need to make sure that they are well-rounded as much as they are with their golf game, and they put as much into the business. They try to be in tournaments and customer service, and most of all, I was told a long time ago that if you take care of the women and the kids, the men will take care of you. And as far as my mentors, the mentors I had was my parents first. My mother taught me how to work real hard at Royal Oaks Country Club. She was a custodian there, and we had to get up in the morning and go and move tables for her during some of the big parties, because we were caddying there and things. But we lived near Royal Oaks Golf Course, and I went to work in 1961 for Harold West at Tualatin Country Club, and he took me and put me in the back room cleaning clubs, and I was a grunt for a year before you had to work your way out of the back room at that time, and it was a fabulous thing. Today they seem like they start them at the counter on the telephone. I didn't even get to answer the telephone for probably a year, because you had to know the questions before you got to do the things. And Harold taught me how to teach. Harold taught me how to work the pro shop, merchandising, all facets of the game. And then I was fortunate enough to go from there. I worked for Eddie Hogan at Riverside Country Club, and I learned merchandising from him. I learned a lot of tournaments from him. And then after that, I went to Bob McKendrick. He was a great mentor. And they had Northwest Open, Oregon Open, all the big tournaments. And it helped me be one of the tournament gurus later on. And I enjoyed working for them very much.
I'm formerly a golf professional from Arrowhead Golf Club, and became a member in 1969, wearing my quarter century pin. Lord willing, maybe I'll get a 50-year pin here shortly. But advice I could offer a young professional or any professional, what would it be and why? I think over the years I found that if you can keep your lady members happy and develop a good, strong junior program, you should have a long job and maintain your longevity. Years ago, Eddie Hogan from down the road here at Riverside, I remember attending one of his seminars, and Eddie mentioned the same thing. You know, if you have to, he said, you know, develop your program and take those kids to the OGA Junior Tournament, even if you have to take them yourself.
My name's Don Smith. I'm PGA professional retired, and I Joined the PGA in 1952. And I guess if I have any advice to put forward for the newcomers coming in, I think they really have to work on a junior program. I think it's important that they really work with some good junior programs and keep the kids learning and getting to like the golf game. I was a second assistant at Portland Golf Club, and the first assistant name was Bill Perkins. He was a real student of the game, and he took extra time and worked and taught me how to play, actually. And then he did help me with things around the shop and what we did to take care of the members. As far as my real boss, Larry Lamberger Sr., he wasn't what you call real helpful that way. He always seemed to be a little too busy. He was, it's like when I was there, I always knew on Wednesdays that he and Bob McKendrick and Eddie Hogan from here at Riverside would, they'd be either fishing or duck hunting. So I knew I had to open and close the shop that day.
I've been at Riverside 44 years, and I've had the head professional up until last year, where I was 34 years as a head professional. But now, in my capacity for the next 5 years, I'll be golf professional emeritus at Riverside. My mentors were some wonderful people. Roger Williams hired me at Riverside in 1978. He was my first mentor. And then right next door here at Columbia Edgewater, I had two wonderful golf professionals, Jerry Molds and Buddy Mason. And whenever I had a question I needed to ask or answer, get an answer for, they were the guys. And then another wonderful golf professional who helped me a lot was a gentleman named Vern Perry, who is also here tonight. So as far as getting into the golf business, I think, first of all, it's a sport and an industry, and you have to absolutely love the sport. If you love the sport of golf, it's a profession that has many, many tentacles. You can become a salesman, golf professional, anything like that, but you will make lifelong friends. You love the game of golf. I always remember that I never had to wear a coat and tie to office very often. I always loved being outdoors and indoors. That was always wonderful. But just the love of the game, the love of the sport, and the lifelong friends that you're going to make, which I'm meeting and met tonight again for the last 30, 40 years, it just doesn't get any better than that.
In my day, I worked very, very hard, and I spent a lot of time with the junior part of the kids programs and things like that. We gave ladies lessons for all over the city of Portland. And mentor, I started in 1955 and worked at the Portland Golf Club. I had an inn there. I worked as a dishwasher there when I was 14 years old, and I knew Larry Lamberger, and he took me in as an assistant in 1955, and he taught me practically how to play golf. I played a little. I was about an 85 shooter, and Don Smith was the assistant, and I worked there for 5 years, and between Larry and Don, they did a pretty good job. I turned out to be a fair player, and I loved the golf business. It was a pretty good job for an old broken down pro baseball player.
I became a member of the PGA in 1969. I've been an active member ever since. If I was going to give some advice to a young golf professional, I would suggest that he live the life as a professional. I've known professionals, I've known golf pros. Golf professionals are the one who seem to do the best. Also, if you're at a club, I think it's very important that you maintain, establish a strong program with the ladies and the children. You'll be very difficult to fire if those two groups are on your side. It's a long period of time that you'll be in the business. Do the best you can, support the education program, and be part of the program. Help your fellow golf professionals get better. Probably had two mentors. First one was Gene C. Bunny Mason. Being around Bunny for a while, when I became a golf professional, he was the shop I wanted to emulate. His actions were what I wanted to be. So I wanted to be a golf professional like Bunny. Whenever I had a problem or needed help, Bunny was there to answer, to help. He meant a lot to me and he was a great friend. My other one was Jerry Moles. The same thing. Whenever I needed something, I could always call Jerry. He would give me the advice. He would help me. He was a wonderful golf professional, and again, I tried to emulate him in my operations.
I'm a golf professional. I joined the PGA and I was a member in 1976. As far as advice to a person entering golf, I would make sure that you identified that there are many different types of membership relative to facilities and occupations, and just try to find yourself where you can match up. I had a mentor named Paul Sundin. He passed away a couple weeks ago, actually. He was the pro at Salem Golf Club where I grew up, and the great influence Paul had on me was he did everything very, very slowly and methodically. I think in golf everybody tends to get racing and tries to do things too quickly, and Paul was very mellow and provided me with a lot of peace and quiet as I tried to make this game a living.
A bit of information or advice I'd offer a young professional would be to always be looking to give good counsel and advice and encouragement to all the players, no matter what their capabilities, because if you get them to work hard, they'll make an advancement. If you discourage them, they'll go back and do something else, and we'd sure like them all to play.
My advice for a young pro is something that I learned watching Larry Lamberger Sr. at Portland Golf Club in the 50s and 60s. Larry would go to the first tee and he'd have a clipboard, and he had, of course, all the starting times there, so he knew who was coming. And he would give a little tip to almost every player. Maybe you ought to move your right thumb over a little bit, or maybe your right foot isn't back far enough, or your elbow is out, and so forth. And he'd give this little tip to each player, and then he would write it down on the clipboard, and as they came around to the ninth green, a couple hours later, he would go out and follow up. He'd go out onto the green and say, "Hey, Joe, what about that little tip I gave you onto the first tee, and is it working for you? And if it isn't, here, you can adjust that." So his whole demeanor was, I'm here to help you play better, and this is how I'm going to do it. You don't have to buy a lesson, just one tip after another. Well, if you played 3-4 times a week, you got 3 or 4 tips, and it really worked well. And I would encourage any young pro to do the same thing.
If I were to give advice to a young fellow just going into the professional golf business, I'd tell you one thing for sure. If you're walking down the practice range and you see one of your members practicing, stop by and talk to them. You've got to start talking to people. Most young guys, and Lord, I've seen enough of them, they don't connect with people very well. And everything you do as a people person, you're selling. It doesn't make any difference if you're an attorney or a doctor, a dentist, or an insurance man. You're a golf professional, you're selling your profession. You have to do that. It's very important. It's the most important thing, is to get along with people. Handle them well, give them a little BS, because that's what they want.
Played a lot of golf here in the Northwest, and I've been asked about what advice I'd give to a professional. My advice, after thinking it over, is first of all, you got to be friendly to everybody, which some are not. Sometimes you have to change your personality a little bit, because it's a very political position to be a golf pro. But my best advice is that you have to be like a good family doctor. And if you're a good family doctor, you care about your patients. A lot of these people that you're giving lessons to, it's a big thing in their life, a lot bigger than it is to you who play scratch golf.
It's very big. It's an ego problem with their friends. They go out and they lose, and they worry about it, and they practice, and they think. And so as a professional, you have to take special care with each one of these golfer patients.